Welcome to days 38 to 44 for my no cards build log for Stronghold Kingdoms. This last week has really been exhausting for me personally, and it's been also a bit disappointing. The reason for this is mainly due to a couple of players who have decided to make things difficult in this area. Now, if you're House 14, I can understand your tactics. This is war. But it is really draining on me compared to what previous weeks have been. Somebody in the comments section of my other video noticed that I lost my village down here. His name is Loop Junkie, and he's a very heavy carder, and apparently, for some reason or another, he decided that it was my time to go. You know, I had 3 villages in this parish, and he thought it'd be a blast to raise one of them the day before his trial or whatever real-life thing he was facing. And I'm not sure if it was because of the videos, although I am slightly inclined to think so due to the fact that I never really bothered this player before, and there was really no reason that he would target or single me out in that way, in such a dedicated fashion. But that could just be paranoia. The thing that's important about it, though, is that if he did raise it because of the videos that I've been doing for this, that artificially alters, what your expectations for the game can be, because you might think that people are going to target you with the same dedication out of the clear blue, but they usually won't. I am a little bit better known, I guess you could say, than the average free-to-play player. Just before I show you the captain report, he sent 2 attacks before that. One with 53 catapults, 55 pikemen, and 291 archers. I completely wiped that one out. And the second one, I also wiped all the catapults out of it, but he successfully, won it. He used a pillage, so hey, he got a catapult. That's good for him. Be proud of that, bro. He only lost about 150 of them. And then the final one, in which he used the captains against me, and he lost. That's about 65 catapults, isn't it, that he lost? So here's the raise. As you can see, I didn't have nearly as many pikemen as I should have had in my keep. He's using the, what is that? He's using heal, and he's using the aggressive captain tactic. So, he's pretty much threw the kitchen sink at me. He also sent arrow volley after my pikemen that were in the keep, so there wasn't a whole lot for him to do by the time this attack rolled around. And I wasn't online at the time either. Otherwise, I could have provided a much better defense because usually I do mass piking of the keep if I'm under attack such as this. He apparently timed them, but I think I could have won it if I had been online. Now, the interesting thing is, because he timed it, he didn't take into consideration the fact that I had a peasant tunnel to the rear, and as you can see, my peasants really knocked a hole right in his catapult hammer army. And that is important to note because I've noticed this more and more as a trend. Just build the rear of your castle a little bit weaker, and man, the players who attack you, they go after it like you wouldn't believe, If you are interested if you really want to be able to accurately predict where your enemies are attacking from, build a castle that has a slightly weaker rear to it, because all the attacks I've been hit with so far have been hitting the rear, and that's great because it takes it takes the random factor out of the equation. It's pretty much a given now that if they're going to send the captain at my villages, it's going to come from the rear. And the second part is that if they're always attacking from the rear, they're always at a significant disadvantage when it comes to actually getting units into the keep, as opposed to attacking from either side or the front. Both of those other 3 are all easier to make it to the keep, so they're putting themselves at a fundamental disadvantage by being so rigid in their attack patterns. And I should note that this is going to change as the game wears on, because players will have access to more catapults, and they're not going to be going for the absolute easiest route to the keep. Basically, they think that right now, catapults are still at a premium, and they're thinking that if they can hit it from the rear, they're going to lose fewer. Which isn't true in the case of my castles. My castles are pretty much defended equally, but that seems to be a sort of a prevailing consensus among other fighters. I shouldn't say other fighters, I'm not a fighter, but... So, after I lost my village in Wilmington, I took another village over here. Now, at first, this village, there's a trade-off. This village is not balanced for my research loadout, and now it is more important, as a rule of thumb, to either build your own village or get a village that is tailored to your strengths. In other words, I don't have any research in dairy farming. I don't have any research in banqueting. So all this stuff are spice working. I don't have any research. I can't do banquets. So producing all of this means nothing to me. I can barely sell it at a profit. And the profit margin would be much higher if I was just making a ton of ale or a ton of cheese, or a ton of apples and selling those. So really, with Stronghold Kingdoms, what you want to do is you want to focus on a resource type, produce as much of that as possible, sell the excess, and then buy the resources that you are not making. And that is what I would normally do, but so right now I'm making a whole bunch of spice, and I can't use it really. I don't have research done into banqueting, even though maybe I should consider putting some points into it now. This is getting to the point of the game where the flexibility, the ability to do banquets is important in case I need to dig myself out of an honor hole. But then the same goes for this village over here, the wine village. They're producing a whole bunch of wine. Once again, this village is not tailored to my research strength. So these are both poor villages for me. The main reason that I keep them is because we are at war, and both of them have very good castles. In other words, I don't have to sit on ID or interdiction half of the time when I'm not here, basically. Especially this castle. This castle, I took it from a fellow faction member. He was moving over to California. He was my faction general, as a matter of fact. And I would like to thank him for the village. It has a great castle, and it allows me to farm some faith points in it without having to... I usually ID it for 4 hours at night. Otherwise it's left to its own devices. But so the point that I was trying to make here is that if you have an opportunity to build your own villages versus taking villages from other people, in general you should try to build your own. Of course, these villages will then be more precious to you, and if you ever move into the more of a fighter's role, or you complete more research, and it basically unlocks more opportunities for you, it is not as critical. But especially during the early game, when your research is still very focused into very specific areas and regions of the tree, it is much better off just to build your own villages if you can, because your productivity will skyrocket in contrast to taking villages from other players. And like I said, the exception to this is because we are at war here, and I cannot afford to interdict my village while the castle is building. It becomes the defense aspect overrides any potential economic benefit that I would have from building my own village. Not to mention, building villages can get kind of boring. I think we can all agree on that. So with that tirade out of the way, I would just like to cover, really as quickly as possible, the research that I completed in the last week. Now, most of it focused on military. I researched scouts all the way to number 8. That basically gives me access to 8 scouts, so now I can reliably scout other players, which is important in war. Although it takes longer because I haven't maxed out horsemanship, which increases the speed of my scouts, I'm still going to at least be able to scout AI castles, bandit camps, wolf lairs, and especially other players. I also maxed out forced march, and the reasoning behind this is because I need to fill my vassals. And currently my vassals, if they're like 4 hours out to fill them, that is a lot of time that you have extra units sitting in your barracks doing nothing but taking up space, and I need that space for monks and I need that space for merchants. So I want to get my armies out to my vassals as fast as possible. This also allows me to remove AIs and basically beat other players to them. This is the point of the game now where the AIs are not quite as they're not quite as high in demand as they were previous, so it's more likely that I can get some good AI honor without actually having to play cards. The other research that I've done is in the Tree of Theology. Now, I invested an additional point in baptism, and I would like to invest one more to get it up to 5 sometime soon, probably after I finish Pilgrimage. The reason behind this is because we're at the point of the game where there aren't as many monkers who are willing to remove disease, because it really costs a lot of faith and you're just removing 3 at a time. So if I can get it up to 5, and then there is a card that you can play. Let's see here. Healing. It only costs 10 card points, so it's really cheap to get. And if your county is overtaken by disease, it is a great card to have. And that's the reason why I'm researching Pilgrimage. It's going to speed up my monks, so hopefully I will have Pilgrimage all maxed up, and then I'll get Baptism up to 5. Now, I'm currently researching Pilgrimage, and Pilgrimage increases the speed of your monks. I hopefully get Baptism up to 5, and then if my county ever really needs quick removal of disease, I can pop a advanced healing card and, you know, basically take care of that by my lonesome. Something else I should mention, in the past week I really completed a lot of quests now that I have access to basically more scouts and more AIs. I started off new this week with Wolf Hunt 2, and I completed the following. Wolf Hunt 2, healing the sick 1, Wolf Hunt 3, Intelligence Gathering 2, Flourishing Trade 2, Law and Order 1, Deer Hunter, Exercise Your Right, Living Off the Land 2, Ride Like the Wind 2, Intelligence Gathering 4, and Law and Order 2, which I just finished this morning. So as you can see, I completed a lot more quests than really probably the last 3 weeks combined. And this is largely due to the fact that AIs are not quite as in high of demand as they were previous weeks, and also I increased my army speed so I could actually hit those wolf flares and stuff. Now that the fact now that I have sort of diversified my village holdings also means that I have more opportunities within my honor circles to basically take out these AIs that are, you know, if I have all my villages in one parish, it greatly reduces the number of AIs that I can kill that are available to me within my honor circle. And the same applies for scouting resource stashes and the like, although that kind of honor isn't really what's doing it for me anymore. So I'm going to show you my rank. I'm still a Baron, and this is in part I could have been doing better if I hadn't had to focus so much on the war effort. You might not think it, but defending takes a lot out of you as well, because you got to divert resources to that instead of things to increase your honor and building pole turners and Fletcher's workshops and stuff. But I was hoping to have been Baron first rank today, or this morning by the time I did this video, and it is pretty close, but I'm still 2,000 away, so I am Baron second rank. Yet last week I was Baron 6th rank, so I've moved up a few ranks, but there's nothing incredible to note. Regarding parishes, my parishes are not military parishes, and I really haven't done anything in the new ones besides spend the flags. You don't want to keep gold sitting around, and this is a pet peeve of mine. Farmers who think they can sit on a whole bunch of gold, or basically any player who thinks they can sit on gold because they are in a house, and that gives them a license to basically hoard it like the dragon Smog. Well, what the problem with this strategy is, there are unscrupulous people and there are also enemies out there who have no problem taking your gold from you and using it against your faction or your house. So if you are a house 10 or 11 player and you're watching this, start spending your gold. If you are a house 14 player, you know what you're doing and you're doing it right. So I'd like to thank you for watching, and I hope you stay tuned next week for that episode.